Good evening. There's a major political crisis brewing in Bihar. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar is not seeing eye to eye with his ally, the BJP. He was due to attend a NITI Aayog meeting here in the capital over the weekend. He did not show up for that meeting, which was chaired by the Prime Minister. The local BJP in the state has been sniping at his heels. He fears that the BJP might do an Eknath Shinde type operation in Bihar using his longtime confidant turned enemy now, RCP Singh. So the big question is it just a matter of time before there is a breakup in Bihar? How will Nitish Kumar possibly justify going back to the RJD and the Congress after he dumped them in 2017?
It's an alliance that was always an uneasy one. But now, the JDU-BJP pact in Bihar could be at the point of no return. The divide deepened after Union Minister RCP Singh quit Nitish Kumar's JDU over the weekend, accusing his own party of corruption. Ahead of his resignation, Nitish Kumar had refused to extend Singh's term of his Rajya Sabha seat, which meant he had to resign as a union minister.
चुनाव में खिलाफ काम किया, सब लोग महिमा मंडित हो रहे। जो चुनाव लड़ा, मुख्यमंत्री का उम्मीदवार बन के घूमा, वो सब महिमा मंडित हो रहा। और हमको बता रहा कूट संपत्ति, हमारा संपत्ति तो मैं बता ही दिया। हमारा संपत्ति तो ये बता दे कहीं पर संपत्ति।
Then the JDU accused BJP of two conspiracies to weaken Nitish Kumar's government: the Chirag model and RCP Singh being a proxy for Amit Shah.
एक मॉडल इस्तेमाल किया गया था 2020 के विधानसभा के चुनाव में, चिराग मॉडल, और दूसरा चिराग मॉडल तैयार किया जा रहा था। लेकिन कभी अगर होगा आगे तब बताएंगे कि षड्यंत्र कहां-कहां हुआ और कैसे-कैसे हुआ। उन्होंने खुद से कहा है कि अमित शाह जी से उनकी बातचीत हुई। अमित शाह जी ने उनको कहा कि आप ही के नाम पर सहमति है। अरे भाई, भारतीय जनता पार्टी तय करेगा कि जदयू का कौन मंत्री होगा। तो अगर जदयू का मंत्री भारतीय जनता पार्टी तय कर रहा था तो ये तो मालूम है ना कि आप क्या कर रहे थे।
The same person is trying to create Chirag model too. Having said, I think you should stop using my name to target Bharatiya Janata Party. You should come out and open and target Bharatiya Janata Party and say that they are the one.
To register his protest, Nitish Kumar has skipped 4 key meetings called by the centre in a month, including Prime Minister's meeting with all chief ministers on Sunday. He claimed he was unwell, but was present at 2 government functions in Patna.
हर मीटिंग में मुख्यमंत्री जी शामिल हो ही यह भी कोई आवश्यक नहीं होता।
What's playing on Nitish Kumar's mind is whether BJP will go the Maharashtra way. Uddhav Thackeray's government fell after a rebellion which was meticulously planned and implemented by the BJP. To plan his next move, Nitish Kumar has called a meeting of his party's MLAs.
कल बैठक में क्या होती है मैं ये नहीं कह सकता हूँ। जरूर लगता है कुछ न कुछ भूचाल आएगा।
Waiting in the wings is the RJD. They are the single largest party in Bihar now. Nitish Kumar had teamed up with the RJD and Congress in 2013 when he broke away from the BJP the first time around. Nitish Kumar has also called Congress President Sonia Gandhi. The combined strength of JDU, RJD and the Congress is large enough to form the government. But will Nitish Kumar pull the plug on his alliance with the BJP again?
All right, there have been a series of meetings that Nitish Kumar has skipped in recent days, and that is giving rise to speculation about his possible pulling the plug on the NDA in Bihar. On the 17th of July, Nitish Kumar skipped a meeting called by the Home Minister in Rajasthan. This was of all chief ministers to discuss law and order issues. On the 22nd of July, Nitish Kumar skipped the dinner that was hosted for former President Ramnath Kovind. Remember, Ramnath Kovind used to be the governor of Bihar before he became president. This dinner was hosted by the Prime Minister. He skipped that. A couple of days after that, on the 25th of July, Nitish also skipped the President Draupadi Murmu's swearing in, despite the fact that all NDA chief ministers were there at that swearing in. On the 31st of July, Nitish Kumar skipped a BJP conclave that was hosted by both Home Minister Amit Shah and BJP Chief JP Nadda. Both of them were in Patna. There was no courtesy call between these individuals because Nitish Kumar had reportedly contracted COVID. And then over the weekend, which many are saying was the last straw, on the 7th of August, Nitish Kumar skipped a very crucial NITI Aayog meeting that was chaired by the Prime Minister here in New Delhi. So let's try and decode why Nitish Kumar is sending out these signals that all is not well in the NDA camp in Bihar. Number one, he is convinced that the BJP and the LJP, Chirag Paswan's party, was behind the JDU's poor showing in 2020. Remember, Nitish Kumar's party, despite being the ruling party, the senior alliance partner, ended up as the number 3 party in the 2020 elections. Second reason, he's upset that the BJP dominated the cabinet formation. Even though he was chief minister, the BJP got more representation in the cabinet, and of course they got 2 deputy chief ministers to go with it as well. He also sees RCP Singh, his longtime confidant turned bete noir now, as part of the BJP's conspiracy to uproot the JDU. He fears RCP Singh may pull off an Eknath Shinde in Bihar. Number 4, he feels he has not got enough support from the BJP despite the famous double engine ki sarkar. And finally, he believes law and order, of course, was one of his strong suits. He believes that Bihar of late is being projected as a terror haven. Remember what happened in Fulwari Sharif, etc. Via these NIA raids. He feels that his own legacy, his own record is being questioned. Now, how do the numbers stack up? The numbers are very, very clearly with the BJP plus JDU, they clearly have gone past the halfway mark. If Nitish Kumar were to pull out, remember he's a number 3 party. He has fewer seats than the BJP. He has fewer seats than the RJD. In fact, RJD is the single largest party in the Bihar Assembly. He cannot possibly form a government without the support of the RJD, the Congress, the CPI-ML, and of course smaller parties. That is if Nitish Kumar decides to pull the plug. The question is, will he do that? And more importantly, how will he justify this, having walked out of this same Mahagathbandhan just in 2017, just about 5 years ago? Let me now go across to Dr. Ranbir Nandan, he's spokesperson of the JDU, Rashid Kidwai, author joining us, Sanjay Kumar, Professor CSDS, Manisha Priyam, political analyst, and Arun Anand, author and columnist, also joining us. Let me start with Dr. Ranbir Nandan. What is the reason that Nitish Kumar is upset, sir? Because when he left the Mahagathbandhan in 2017, you said corruption was the issue. It was putting a taint on his government. His continuance in the Mahagathbandhan became untenable. But today, Lalu Prasad Yadav is convicted in at least 5 fodder scam cases, including having spent time in jail. So, is that corruption issue over? How can Nitish Kumar justify going back and joining hands with the RJD? डॉक्टर रणबीर नंदन, वो सवाल आपके लिए था।
नहीं, नीतीश कुमार जी कोई अपसेट नहीं है। नीतीश कुमार जी ने गठबंधन धर्म का भली भांति पालन किया है और बीजेपी साथ में गठबंधन में है और जिस प्रकार से गठबंधन के साथ सरकार चलाई जाती है वो सारा धर्म मानव नीतीश कुमार जी ने निभाया है। इसलिए नीतीश कुमार जी जो आपने कहा कि अपसेट है, वो कोई अपसेट नहीं है।
तो ये बताइए ना डॉक्टर नंदन साहब कि वो द्रौपदी मुर्मू के स्वेरिंग इन पे नहीं आए थे, रामनाथ कोविंद जी जो पुराने राष्ट्रपति होते थे, वो पुराने गवर्नर भी रह चुके हैं बिहार के, उनके डिनर में भी नहीं आए, और लास्टली जो वीकेंड पे हुआ नीति आयोग वाला मीटिंग उस पे भी नहीं आए। क्या मतलब इससे क्या हम समझें कि कुछ ना कुछ तो गड़बड़ है ना?
कोई गड़बड़ नहीं है। जब आदमी की तबीयत ठीक रहती है, स्वस्थ रहता है, तो वह कहीं भी फ्रिक्वेंटली आते जाते रहता है। माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी को कोविड भी अभी हुआ था और वो तबीयत उनकी ठीक नहीं थी, जिसके कारण उन्होंने भाग ले लिया। ऐसी कोई बात नहीं है ना, ऐसा कोई विषय है
नहीं। डॉक्टर नंदन, ये भी सही है ना कि उन्होंने सोनिया गांधी के साथ टेलीफोन पे बातचीत की और वो भी वही दिन जब नीति आयोग की मीटिंग चल रही थी यहाँ दिल्ली में, और उसी दिन पटना में 2-3 मीटिंग उन्होंने कन्वीन कर दी। तो जैसे आप बोल रहे हैं कि उनका स्वास्थ्य ठीक नहीं है, तो फिर पटना में मीटिंग कन्वीन करने के लिए स्वास्थ्य ठीक है, लेकिन दिल्ली तक आने में स्वास्थ्य ठीक नहीं है।
हाँ, पटना में उतना रेजिस्टेंस बॉडी को अलाउ कर रहा होगा तो पटना में 1-2 मीटिंग वो कर लिए, लेकिन अब दिल्ली जा रहे हैं तो ऐसा कयास लगाना ठीक नहीं है।
क्या दिल्ली में इम्यूनिटी कम हो जाती है क्या? एनीवे, लेट मी आस्क,
ट्रेवल करते हैं, ट्रेवल करने में तो एक्सर्शन तो होता ही है ना।
जी। let me ask our analysts on the broadcast. Let me start with Manisha Priyam. The question is, how much truth is there to this fear? And many are saying that this whole story is the genesis of this story is born out of Nitish Kumar's fear that, like what happened in Maharashtra, RCP Singh, who was thrown out of the party just recently, may do an Eknath Shinde on him. So Nitish does not want to end up in the same fate as an Uddhav Thackeray.
I mean, this fear is something that is genuinely going to be there because Nitish Kumar ji this time around sits on a chair with a very uneasy situation where he just has about 40 odd MLAs.
Yes.
So his anger with the coalition started as soon as the results started pouring in, and the fact that under his leadership, his party was really a distant third in the race to power.
Yeah.
So it was really the grace of the BJP which had announced before the elections that the chair of Chief Minister would be Nitish Kumar. And following the elections, whether they had the larger numbers, they agreed to this. But the fact that Nitish Kumar was used to working in an environment with Sushil Kumar Modi as his deputy, this time around, that was changed. You had Tarkishore Prasad, and you also had other deputies coming in. Now, this was a different team. Nitish Kumar, all this reference to coalition, dharma, and all this is all the Atal Bihari Vajpayee model of the BJP with whom Nitish Kumar was comfortable. Also with Sri Arun Jaitley's team in the BJP with whom he was comfortable. Sushil Modi with whom he was comfortable. One often hears that he's not all that comfortable with this team. So that's one as far as governance is concerned.
Okay.
But I think the real anger has been the less number of seats, and Chirag Paswan, who Nitish Kumar often believes was the reason behind the less number of seats. But the fact was that there was massive anti-incumbency on the ground. And today when we compare Maharashtra and Nitish Kumar, let us remember in the elections at the peak of COVID in 2020, when the elections happened in October, his party came a measly third. There was anti-incumbency. There were situations why his party did not do well.
Okay,
now,
let me
add
ask
to it the RCP
Professor Sanjay
factor.
Kumar. This whole factor about leadership, bigger party, smaller party, fact is, yes, Manisha Priyam is right. JDU was always the senior alliance partner, but because of the numbers, the BJP had bigger numbers in 2020, and yet they said, okay, Nitish Kumar will continue to be chief minister. Again, just as recently as last month, when Amit Shah and JP Nadda were there in Bihar for a BJP conclave, both of them publicly said that they will fight in Bihar, both in the Lok Sabha 2024 and in Assembly 2025 under Nitish Kumar's leadership. So where is this fear then stemming from?
There is a saying in Hindi, कथनी और करनी में फर्क है, और you can say, हाथी के दांत दिखाने वाले और होते हैं और खाने वाले और होते हैं. The public posturing of BJP leader is very different from, I think, what is being cooked in the kitchen. I think there are clear signals that Nitish Kumar has unease with the way BJP is running the government in the state, and also the way at times different political leaders belonging to BJP are giving statements against the government or against Nitish Kumar. I think there are clear signs. If you look back how the BJP's conclave was conducted in Bihar, even though the two leaders mentioned that 2024 elections or 2025 elections they are going to contest in the leadership of Nitish Kumar, but I think there was also one statement that they are going to contest 200 seats. Sorry, this was not a statement, but there were clear signals that this Baitak was being conducted in 200 assembly seats. A clear signal was being sent out that BJP is trying to expand party support base. They are sending out a signal that next assembly election they will not be satisfied with contesting half the seats or any such kind of a seat arrangement. They send out clear signals that BJP is aiming to be a bigger partner. They are aiming to at least contest 200 seats in the assembly. I think Manisha has already mentioned that this unease has not come up during last couple of months. This unease, the unease of Nitish Kumar with BJP started with the way Chirag Paswan contested the election and the whole story which unfolded after that.
Yeah. Okay, let me go to Rashid Gidwai. You know, the question again that's being asked, given the numbers, Nitish Kumar is sitting on a measly 45 seats, RJD has 79, BJP has 77, and once bitten, twice shy, as they say. Why should RJD support or agree to support Nitish Kumar as Chief Minister yet again? And we are given to understand that while Lalu may have his sympathies or soft corner, Tejashwi Yadav may not be that inclined to supporting Chief Minister Nitish Kumar as Chief Minister. So why should we believe that we are going to see the Mahagathbandhan all over again in 2022 if Nitish so decides to pull the plug on the BJP?
Zaka, that's exactly, it tells you it's a very telling commentary on the opposition also. The opposition is so desperate, they have such a huge sense of despondency that if anything happens, any kind of forward movement in their scheme of things, and they are game. Even if they can become, some people can just, 2 members or 3 members from the Congress party can become minister. Sonia Gandhi would say, go ahead, and, RJD would join in, just thinking that something will happen in 2024. And where NDA or Narendra Modi can be weakened. In Nitish Kumar, many people outside NDA think that they would have a kind of prime ministerial candidate. It's too premature, it's too early, and it's of course a very kind of beaten story. At the same time, if you look at Biju Janata Dal, Jagan Mohan Reddy's party, KCR, and several other formations, they would show some degree of interest. And not to forget, of course, this Mamata Banerjee Congress left, and Aam Aadmi Party and Congress and TMC left. So all these things are given there. It's quite a point bowler. I think Nitish Kumar is living up to his reputation. What's being said, Pal to Ram. He can take, he can switch sides, and switch sides in a convincing manner. There are always some takers for him. And this is something which is very intriguing.
I think it was Lalu himself, and I'll ask Arun Anand this, Lalu himself who coined this slogan, "Aisa koi saga nahi, jisko Nitish ne thaga nahi," meaning he doesn't have anyone who is close to him who he has not pulled the legs off. So my question is then, when ultimately he has to go back to the people, whether it's in 2024 Lok Sabha or 2025 Vidhan Sabha, how will Nitish Kumar justify this before the people? Because the people are going to say, this is just opportunism. Not once or twice. If he does it in 2022, it will be 3 times in the last 8 years.
Zaka, I think, one, there is no immediate threat to the Mahagathbandhan or the alliance which the Janata Dal-U and BJP has. Of course, there has always been an unease in relationship, and that has been there right since the beginning between Nitish Kumar and the BJP, because the style of politics and to a large extent the content of the politics is also quite different. So that unease will always be there, but Nitish has experimented with another partner, and Nitish has realized that there is no other way out if he wants to remain in power. Now, as far as this latest crisis is concerned, my take is slightly different. I think if you look at the larger picture, it has more to do with the dynamics of parties in India which are driven by individuals, or which are very individual centric, bereft of any ideology and a proper, ideological framework. The same thing is, and then these parties start imploding. These are the internal power dynamics and the internal power struggles of these such parties, which are individual based. You have seen that happening in Maharashtra. You have seen that happening, the fissures in the Samajwadi Party. Now you are seeing this in JDU also. So it largely has to do with that, basically.
ओके डॉक्टर नंदन, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूँगा कि नीतीश कुमार का एक सबसे बड़ा यूएसपी था लॉ एंड ऑर्डर, लेकिन हमने पिछले 6-7-10 महीने में ये देखा है कि बिहार में, चाहे वो अग्निपथ के मामले में हो या प्राइस राइज के मामले में हो या हाल ही में जो टेरर रेड्स जो चल रहे थे एनआईए के द्वारा, इन सब चीज़ों में एक चीज़ साफ नज़र आ रही थी कि ये जो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर का प्लैंक है, ये तो मतलब खराब स्थिति में है. क्या ये एक डिफरेंस ऑफ ओपिनियन बन गया था बीजेपी और जेडीयू के बीच में, और इसकी वजह से नीतीश कुमार नाराज है?
देखिए, उन कुछ बातों पर मैं प्रकाश डाल देना चाहता हूं. जब आप कोलिशन गवर्नमेंट में हैं, जब आप गठबंधन की सरकार में हैं, तो फिर कुछ उसके मापदंड होते हैं. अब आप गठबंधन की सरकार में हैं और उसी प्रदेश में आकर आप यह अनाउंस कर रहे हैं कि अगले कुछ वर्षों में जो क्षेत्रीय दल हैं वह खत्म हो जाएंगे, तो यह थोड़ा जो क्षेत्रीय दल हैं, जो गठबंधन के साथ दल हैं, उनको अच्छा नहीं लगता है। तो एक बात ये हो गई। दूसरा, अभी मैं सुन रहा था प्रोफेसर संजय कुमार जी का कि आप अनाउंस करते हैं कि हम 200 सीटों पर लड़ेंगे। जहां गठबंधन होता है वहां पर कुछ डिस्कशन करके कोई भी बात कही जाती है। मानवर नीतीश कुमार जी ने जब गठबंधन धर्म का पालन किया, अभी हो रहा था कि बीजेपी के मंत्रियों की संख्या ज्यादा, भाई उनकी संख्या जब सीट ज्यादा है तो संख्या उनकी स्वाभाविक रूप से ज्यादा होगी। कभी भी नीतीश कुमार जी ने कोलिशन गवर्नमेंट में कभी भी कुछ ऐसा नहीं किया जिससे कि जो गठबंधन वाला दल है,
लेकिन डॉक्टर नंदन ये बताइए, मेरा सवाल ये है कि 4 मीटिंग पिछले 2-3 हफ्तों में 4 मीटिंग जो है उन्होंने कैंसिल कर दी या नहीं आए, वो ठीक है, वो उनकी मर्जी है, आना चाहेंगे तो आएंगे, अगर नहीं चाहते हैं तो नहीं आएंगे। लेकिन जिस दिन नीति आयोग का मीटिंग चल रहा था उसी दिन सोनिया गांधी के साथ फोन पे बातचीत करना, क्या ये पॉलिटिकल सिग्नलिंग नहीं है?
अब ये कोई प्रमाण नहीं है कि उनकी बात सोनिया गांधी से हुई है कि नहीं हुई है, ये हमें नहीं पता है।
नहीं, ये तो हमें पता है। नहीं, हमें पता है, हम बता रहे हैं।
हमें पता नहीं है। लेकिन जो पॉलिटिकल, जब गठबंधन की सरकार चलती है तो पॉलिटिकल कॉज को देखना पड़ता है। पॉलिटिकल कॉज में जो गठबंधन वाले दल हैं उनको बड़ा एहतियात बरतना पड़ता है। आप ऐसी घोषणाएं न कर दें जिससे कि आपके साथी को कहीं कोई कंफ्यूजन हो जाए।
Let me ask Professor Sanjay Kumar, I'll give him the final word. When Nitish Kumar left the NDA first time in 2013-14, it was a question of leadership of Narendra Modi. He couldn't accept the leadership of Narendra Modi. Come 2024, and if this happens, if indeed he goes back to RJD and to the Mahagathbandhan and to the Congress, what is the realistic chance that Nitish Kumar may be projected by the opposition as potentially one of the faces of the prime ministerial candidates, as Rashid Kidwai was saying?
No, in the past there have been a lot of discussion that Nitish Kumar could be a very good face or a person who could be selected as a consensus candidate among the opposition parties. But I think it's not going to be that easy. As we come closer, as opposition party come closer to having a discussion on who should be the face of the opposition party, who should be the face of the opposition parties, I think that is the time when the real crisis would begin. If you are discussing this issue from a distance, yes, I think people will say, people means the leaders of various opposition parties would say, yes, seems to be a good name, seems to be a good person to lead the opposition. But when it would be the real time of making a declaration, making this choice, I don't think many opposition leaders would be happy or would be willing to accept him as the face of the opposition. That's going to be the real challenge for the opposition parties.
Okay, let's see how this story plays out. A lot is going to happen in Bihar over the next few days. We'll have that covered right here on CNN News 18. Thanks very much to all our guests. I want to move on to another quick story. And this is, of course, a big dream run as far as the Indian contingent is concerned at the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. Today, just today itself, on the final day, the concluding day of the Games, we've got 3 gold medals, all in badminton and 1 in table tennis, and that's happened just in the span of the last few hours. First, it was 2-time Olympic medalist PV Sindhu, who defeated 2014 Glasgow Games gold medalist Michelle Lee of Canada. This happened in straight games, 21-15, 21-13. Then it was the turn of former world junior #1 Lakshya Sen, who beat Malaysia's Eng Se Yong in a thriller, 19-21, 21-9, 21-16. And just minutes later, the men's duo of Chirag Shetty and Ranki Reddy Satwik won the historic gold by beating their English counterparts, the pair of Ben Lane and Sean Vendy. They won in 2 sets, 21-15, 21-13. And then finally, it was the turn of veteran table tennis legend Achanta Sharat Kamal, who got the better of England's Liam Pitchford 4-1 in the final of the men's singles, winning 13-11, 11-7, 11-2, 11-6, and 11-8.
I play there, I work hard, but I think behind that, coach Park or, my physio Evangeline and my strength and conditioning trainer Shrikant, I think it is very important as an athlete to also maintain physically and mentally fit. So for that, I think they have really, really worked hard behind. So thanks to them because they've also deserved it.
Big day, Super Sindhu has done it again. Sir, many congratulations. Your first reaction? Thank you. We are so happy. So right now you are looking at the medals here. So you know we have different medals, especially for the Commonwealth. We have bronze and silver. So now the gold will be coming into this.
So show us the bronze and the silver medals that you have.
It's somewhere in this which has been.
So the gold will now occupy a big position, right? Where will you put it? I want to.
So no, not only that one, but I have to place the Olympics bronze also. So and even the World Championship gold also we have not made it.
Each and every medal is important. So, not like that. Each and every medal from under 10 onwards. It's very important.
Madam, I want to understand, last time when we met, it was during the Olympics. After that, Sindhu was preparing very hard. Just tell us about the preparations that she undertook for this particular Commonwealth Games.
Not only this Commonwealth, before this match there was a Singapore Open and she won that also. They have continuous matches, so preparation is going on well.
काफ़ी अच्छा लग रहा है एंड जब भी मैं ये टूर्नामेंट के लिए आया था मुझे लग रहा था कि आई कैन डू वेल बट एट द सेम टाइम आई जस्ट मतलब मैंने यही सोचा कि आई विल टेक वन मैच एट अ टाइम एंड नॉट टू पुट टू मच प्रेशर ऑन माई सेल्फ मैंने मैच से पहले तो कुछ सोचा नहीं था हाउ टू सेलिब्रेट बिकॉज मैं मैच पे ज़्यादा फोकस कर रहा था वो टाइम पे बट देन अगेन जैसे ही मैं मैच जीता वो सब काफ़ी मेरा रिएक्टिव काफ़ी मेरा सेलिब्रेशन था एंड आई हैव टू रियली गो एंड सी मैंने क्या किया है बिकॉज फर्स्ट 1-2 मिनट मुझे खुद को भी नहीं पता चल रहा था कि मैंने कैसे सेलिब्रेट किया। आई हैव टू रियली गो एंड सी एंड डेफिनेटली आई लुक कि हाउ पीपल फाइंड इट। जो मेरा टीम है मैं उनको थैंक यू बोलना चाहूँगा।
What's your first thought on today's game?
मतलब ये था कि लक्ष्य को जीतना है इस मैच को और उसने अच्छा खेला और वो जीता तो हम सब लोग खुश हैं कि वो इंडियन मतलब 4th इंडियन बना तो राष्ट्रमंडल खेले वो जीतने वाला। ये मैच जो था बहुत मतलब अच्छा हाई स्पीड मैच था, बहुत दोनों प्लेयर बहुत अच्छा खेले और सेकंड गेम के बाद लक्ष्य ने थोड़ा अपना जो टेक्टिकल पार्ट था वो चेंज किया और क्योंकि उसका ओपोनेंट था थोड़ा फटीग में था और उसके बाद मतलब अच्छा ही रहा और गोल्ड मेडल जीता है।